Hey everyone, this is Carla Black coming to you from Austin, Texas. Welcome back to this episode of Highly Unorthodox, the show that takes you behind the scenes of the hit Netflix TV series Unorthodox. Today I'm speaking with Daniel Hendler. Daniel is a writer and story editor for the series, so I'm very excited to speak to him about his experience and what went into making the show. So tell me about your journey in film.
I was not so sure I wanted to work in film and television, but I knew I loved writing, and I was also considering journalism, and then I kind of fell in love with it from there. I was pretty sure I wanted to eventually try my hand at screenwriting, and I ended up working in development, and the left turn was going to Europe for love, and then continuing my career over here.
That happens.
Yes, yeah. And I was fortunate enough to get connected with Anna through a writing program I did in Berlin, and she contacted me in, I think it was December of 2018, and Unorthodox got greenlighted in October, and at that point Anna had just finished a first draft of the pilot script, and that's when I came on board. Traditionally, you have a showrunner, in this case Anna and Alexa, who are the creators of the show, and they will write a pilot script, and that's usually what sells and gets the show off the ground. And then they'll assemble a team of writers to help execute the idea. That means you have a writer's room, so it can be anywhere from 4 or 5 to up to 10 writers, and you're sitting around. It's like a regular job. You're there every day, and you're breaking story and talking about characters and trying to figure out where the season goes. And then at the end of it, individual writers get assigned individual episodes. And so that's what typically in the TV show, the writing credit means that writer wrote the first draft of that episode, but really everything's kind of done collectively, and it's really always in the voice of the showrunner. So in this case, Anna and Alexa, it was really their vision, and they had first drafts and final passes at everything. And my job as a staff writer, as another writer on the show, is to kind of make sure that their vision, when I'm writing something, it's making sure that it's consistent with their vision, while also obviously adding my own, whatever I can contribute in my own ideas. But Unorthodox, so in that sense, it was traditional, but otherwise, there were only 3 of us. There was no writer's room in the traditional sense. It came together so quickly, and Anna wrote so fast, and Alexa too. Basically, like we had drafts of scripts, but we were rewriting throughout the entire process because just having to get into production. It was from December to May, which is a really fast time for a TV show to get all the scripts ready, to cast, to hire, to do all the pre-production stuff you need to do. I was on set every day, and this is more in the American model than the European model, but Anna wanted to do things kind of the American way, where you have a writer available and on set, and sometimes it's just to make sure everything works, the dialogue works. If actors kind of have problems with their lines, they could come to me, and we would try to rewrite and find a solution.
What I think is so fascinating, there's so many things I think are fascinating about this show, but it skips time quite a bit. And you see her leaving, and you see her in Berlin, then you see her meeting Yankee, then you see her wedding. So it's not linear. And of course, it's only 4 episodes long. So I just wonder how it was to write something that was so all over the time span.
That was always a question of how do we balance the 2 timelines? How do we deal with the flashbacks and have its own flow and not feel disruptive or not end up going too long without having any present day action? And so that was something where scenes would actually float between certain episodes. Things like the wedding, I think, were always going to be in the 2nd episode. Like the Passover Seder, where she finds out she's pregnant, was always going to be in the 4th episode. But other stuff would go over the drafts of the script, and there were many. They would, one scene here would end up getting bumped to a different episode. And then within the episodes, it was always a challenge of figuring out, how do we space these out? How long do we do a teaser for? I think in one draft, we thought like, okay, we're spending too long in the past without jumping to the present. So we'll split up this scene. You really see the power of editing. And Anna was so amazing to work for, is so amazing to work for. She really is welcoming and believes in kind of like the writer involving writers in all parts of the process. Like I got to come to the editing room, I got to supervise ADR, which is when they re-record voices. And then you can see in the editing is like starting all over again. You can kind of almost rewrite the movie in certain ways. And so then even some of the flashback material we could play with in the editing room.
Well, of course, one of the questions that comes up a lot is, why was the decision made for it to be half based on the book and then half fiction?
This was a decision that was made before my involvement, but obviously we talked about it a lot. I think there were kind of practical and more maybe even mundane concerns of just that Deborah's real life story in the book, it takes place completely inside the community. And it's such a wonderful memoir, but there are challenges to doing a traditional adaptation because her life was so internal, you know, and I think that's something that's so moving and beautiful about the book and about those flashback sequences that we used in the show, is that it was really about her not feeling like she had anyone she could truly open up to and connect with.
Right.
And so that was one of the reasons. And the other reason was I think it was something where it was just kind of freeing to have it be a new character, to not to kind of give Deborah some separation. So this product that was coming out there, people wouldn't hear the name Deborah and see Deborah Feldman and confuse every little artistic choice as something that actually happened to her. And from my personal perspective, I do think that there was such an attempt to have a fealty towards the community and how we present the Satmar world right down to the smallest detail, that it was very freeing in this other aspect of the story and character when she goes to Berlin to be able to think more artistically and not feel so beholden to the obligation of some real and existing.
I didn't know anything really about Satmar. I hadn't even heard that word before. So I didn't know anything about that community. Did you know anything about that going in, or was that new to you as well?
Only vaguely from going to New York, you know, as a child, and my whole family going back generations have always kind of been the observant, secular, like I guess the traditional, almost cliche American Jew of observing the holidays, going to temple, bar mitzvah, Hebrew school, but also Reform Reconstructionist. So for me, it was a very steep learning curve. Ellie, as everyone knows, I guess, who's watching this, was really the guru, and he wore so many hats.
Literally.
Yeah, literally so many hats. Obviously, there's criticisms of the show from within the ultra-Orthodox community, but so many of the people who are involved, who are ex-Satmar, still have such a tremendous affection for that community.
It's interesting to just realize how many Jews are living in Berlin. I mean, I just imagine you, Jeff, and Deborah being the entire Jewish community of Berlin. I'm sure that's not, but is that ever odd for you or not?
It's such a wounded city. I mean, it was from the Holocaust to the wall that really was a byproduct of the war. And in a way, it's like, I feel like it's such an appropriate city for Esty to come to, because it is a city of reinvention. It's a city that's suffered tremendously and in many ways is kind of trying to confront its past, but also seems like trying to run from its past and be something completely new. And the energy there, it's so vibrant and so young. All the people that Esty meets there were born after the wall fell, you know, let alone when the Holocaust happened.
That's true. Was Shira Haas the person that people had in mind early on for this role? And she was so brilliant in it, it just feels like it was made for her. Was it?
Oh, yeah. It felt, when I came on board, I think she wasn't officially casted yet, but it was already like, Anna was like, we want to get Shira Haas for Esty. And immediately, and I'm not unique in this, of course, everybody who you heard that, you're like, yeah, of course, she's perfect. Anna and Alexa wrote a scene that is what eventually evolved into their meeting. And she and Amit did a screen test together, and it was just perfect chemistry, so good. So pretty early on, I do not know if way back there were other contenders, but I think from the minute I heard it, I couldn't imagine anyone else doing it. A superstar. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, nailed it.
just turned 25 and is just, everybody already knows on screen how talented she is, but to work with, just like so kind and thoughtful.
She played some pretty glum characters prior to this. So, I thought she was just.
Yeah, and that's what was so wonderful about the Berlin storyline too, is getting to show that, it's really a coming of age story, and getting to have that happy ending and getting her to find her people and to see that smile so often, I think is, that was so much fun. And that's really like the real Shira when she's on set and is just so bubbly and joyful and kind. And I'm really glad that she got to flex all those muscles, because she is just, amazing face and amazing actress, just incredible.
You don't have a lot of empathetic male characters in this. And on top of that, so many of the people behind the scenes are women too. It's a very strong woman's story. How was that being a guy?
I have 3 sisters. I don't know, I grew up around women. It's true. It's Anna, our creators, our director, our star, most of our department heads, Justine and Silka. It's not even something I ever really thought about. I think I would have noticed more so if it was not like that. I think this is exactly how it should be.
What about the decision to only have 4 episodes?
You always want to leave them wanting more, right?
Well, I want more.
Yeah, I don't want to be coy, so I can get right out in front of it and say that everyone's happy with it being a limited series. We do feel like Estee's journey, like going from the place where she knew she was different but thought it was a problem, to kind of realizing that being different is an asset, and finding her place, and ending on that smile as she sees her friends, walking towards her at the cafe. It did feel like such an appropriate her journey. But it's funny, we all have different ideas. Talking to Anna or Shira or Alexa, it's like, where do you think this goes? What do you think happens to Yankee or to Moisha or to Shira? And we've talked about it. We definitely talked about it before. And all of us are, would be like, no. Like, but Robert is just a fling. And other people say, no, it could be a relationship, or no, Yankee wants to leave and they can have a love story. So it's interesting. It's up for debate. But
that's
yeah,
great.
I guess nothing in 2020, no TV show is ever really over, I guess. So maybe down the line, but right now it's a limited series and we're not planning on doing any more.
Now, how close was the Yiddish to the German? Now that you're, I'm sure, quite fluent in German, were you able to pick up Yiddish, or was that?
That was really fun, actually. It was something where growing up, I would always, my grandma spoke it.
Right.
And you hear a lot of Yiddish words, and then learning German, it's like, oh, that's where like Mensch comes from, or something, the parallels. And so that was pretty fun. And also working on this, seeing it written is a little bit easier. Obviously, it's written with the Hebrew alphabet, but we would have our scripts transcribed in Latin lettering. So then seeing it written, it was a bit easier to make those connections as well.
So what was your process for writing? Would you write the scripts in German?
Everything was done in English, and then he would translate the parts in Yiddish. And the way we would do the scripts, so we could all the production crew, and I mean, for me, when I was on set, I kind of, by that point, I was living and breathing the show so long, I didn't need the versions, but we would do them kind of parallel to each other on the page. So on the left-hand side would be the English, and then the right-hand side would be the Yiddish.
Because there's Yiddish and German and English. There's a combination of 3 languages in the course.
That's true. The German, there was really not too much German. It was more kind of asides between the music students when 2 German characters would speak to each other. Alexa, of course, is a native German speaker. So when she was there, it was like all the German was easy. I think one time when Alexa was not on set, we had Sabina give us a line. Yeah, everything was done in English. And then what was needed to be translated was translated.
Did Shira speak Yiddish? Or she had to learn Yiddish? Wow.
She had to learn, so did Ami. Her grandmother, which I think is well documented, was a Holocaust survivor and I think spoke Yiddish, and like a lot of us, grandparents spoke it, so a little bit here and there. But she and Ami really learned for the role, and not just Yiddish, but this is the specific Satmar, Hungarian, New York accent of Yiddish. So this is how superhuman I think Shira and Amit are, is that not only did they learn a completely new language, but they learned how to do it in a different accent also. I mean, the whole cast, but really especially Shira and Amit, just gave so much of themselves to that role. And also, remember, Shira sings, she plays the piano. All of that were skills that she either learned or honed while doing the show.
Well, they left it right out there.
I don't know,
all the awards, Daniel, all the awards.
It does feel kind of like we're the little engine that could, because to even have the opportunity to be nominated, I think is so cool.
I'm sure a lot of people have been binge watching because people are at home who normally might not be at home.
I was talking to Anna, and I was like, it feels like the quarantine, the stay-at-home order is kind of like the Eruv wire for the whole world broke, and now we're all stuck inside. So I wonder if there's some kind of subconscious thing going on with that.
I think if a lot more people end up in Germany,
yeah,
wire broke, we're all running off. Well, thank you so much, and it's so fun to get to talk to you.
You're terrific. You're a pro at this point. I thought from the beginning it always was good, but maybe that's the ending. I'm not sure.
Highly Unorthodox is brought to you today by our sponsors, Texas Hill Country Homes, serving all your residential needs in Central Texas, and Creative by Carla, helping you get through your creative blocks. See you next time on Highly Unorthodox.